All right, sleepers, breakouts, and busts. We'll go Jamie, Heath, Dave. My favorite sleeper running back is blank.
My favorite sleeper running back is, let's go with Rashad Penny. I mean, who would have thought we're saying that in 2023? But, he could be the lead running back for the Eagles, still going at a price where it's, easy to buy him. I did see him shockingly go in the flex draft ahead of DeAndre Swift in half PPR. First time I've seen that. So he's clearly rising fastly, but there's an opportunity here for him to be in a very, very good spot. So like the setup for him.
Okay, Heath?
I'll go with the guy who in NFC ADP is one spot behind Rashad Penny, and that is Samaje Perine. I think he's at pick 105, so around 9 range. I think as long as Williams is healthy, this will be like a 60-40 split, and Perine can be a nice flex. And there's every reason to believe that there's concern for a re-injury for Javonte Williams or for him to be eased in early in the year, which would give Perine a lot more upside.
Dave, your favorite sleeper?
Let's go with Sean Tucker. Undrafted rookie running back with the Tampa Bay Bucks. Just figure that he's one of the more talented guys. The reason why he didn't get drafted was because of a health issue. He's been cleared. He's practicing. And I just think late round flyer, see where he ends up on the depth chart in Tampa Bay.
All right, let's go with Heath, Dave, Jamie. Favorite breakout running back is blank. Heath?
I'll go with Alexander Madison. You guys know the stat. 3 times he's played at least 50% of the snaps. 3 times he's had 100 total yards and 20 PPR fantasy points. That's not a fair expectation for this year, but you should expect him to be a mid-range to high-end number 2 running back, and he absolutely has top 12 upside if everything goes right.
Dave?
I already talked about Tony Pollard. Wanted to review his 2 games last year without Ezekiel Elliott against Chicago. 33.7 PPR points at Green Bay. That's a better defense. 21.8 PPR points near the goal line in his career. He's about 50% of getting into the end zone. I think he's still going to be the guy that leads the Cowboys in touches. Only once in the last, I guess it's a decade now, has a running back in Dallas not had at least 250 touches. It was last year when neither Zeke nor Pollard had 250 touches. I think you're going to see Pollard crush that number. I think he's going to be outstanding.
Jamie, your favorite breakout running back is blank.
Let's go with, I'll go back to J.K. Dobbins. I just think the setup for him is just fantastic. The offensive line is good. They're still going to run the ball to a high enough degree where his rushing will be, still the thing that carries him. But if he gets any more of a foothold in the passing game, and they start to do that with the running backs, and that's all you're hearing from Todd Monken's offense in practice right now without him there, I think that's just going to be a huge boost to what he's going to give you. So he's falling to a spot now where it's just amazing because people are scared, and I get it. But if he plays the majority of the full season, you're going to get what he averaged at the end of last year as a rusher, plus that as a passer and a better system because Lamar Jackson will be there. So I think he's going to have a career season and be a borderline top 10 running back this year.
Does anyone disagree with one of these breakouts? Madison for Heath, Pollard for Dave, Dobbins for Jamie?
I would only disagree with how much Pollard was RB7 last year. How much better are we thinking he's going to be this year?
He could potentially be RB1.
Yeah. I mean, I love him. Heath, what's your hesitation?
I don't believe he's going to turn into a feature back who smashes 250 touches. I don't think the Cowboys want to do that with him. He never did it in the pros. He never did it in college. I'm not sure what his high school stats were, but I just don't think they view him as somebody who's going to be a 300. I think Bijan has the upside. I'm not sure he'll do it because they have other good backs there to share with. I think Bijan has the upside to touch the ball 350 times this year. I think Pollard's probably going to be a similar number of touches to what he was last year, maybe a slight bump.
He had 232 touches last year, so a slight bump would put him at 250.
That was in 16 games. So I don't know how many. He was probably on pace, pretty close to 250 in 17 games. I think, based on a quote I read yesterday from ESPN covering Cowboys camp and other things, I don't know if the carries go way up. I'm really hoping the catches go up. I really hope he becomes a 50 catch guy. Does anybody think that Pollard catches 50?
He's had 39 each of the last 2 seasons while splitting reps. I think that's I know that everybody's excited about Deuce Vaughn, and he's had some great highlights in camp. do you really think he's going to get pressed into being like the featured passing downs running back in Dallas when it's 3rd and 8? That's who's going to be on the field.
No.
I don't think so. I think it's going to be Pollard. I think he can get to 50 catch. I think, honestly, dude, I think he can get to 60.
I've got him at 42.
Okay.
I would say 45 to 50 is realistic. Just looking at what they've added as in the receiving core, and if all those guys stay healthy, do they really need him to be a 50 catch guy?
Kind of. I mean, that's the thing. That's kind of my argument for it. Is I don't really think
they need it. We would like to see it.
No,
do they need it to be?
Well, yeah, I don't think they have a very good receiving core, and I think they might lean on the tight end less this year than they have in the past. And that's
because I think you got a healthy Gallup and a Brandon Cooks addition that they didn't have over the last couple of seasons.
I simply don't know what to expect from Gallup and Cooks. It's kind of.
I think Cooks they've both had very good camps, but Cooks has been outstanding. And I think about a former number 1 receiver now operating as the number 2, and the coverage will be easier for him. And they're starting to get a drumbeat out of Dallas that they're going to throw more than we're giving them credit for after all.
They are. Okay, so busts. Who will be a bust? Blank will be a bust. We'll go Dave, Jamie Heath.
I will nervously say Miles Sanders based on his ADP. He's got a round 4 ADP. He's never been higher than 13.4 PPR points per game in a season. He's been above 12 in 3 of his 4 seasons. So I think he can be good. I have a hard time believing he's going to go right back to 50 catches when he hasn't done it in the past few years. And I'm just a little nervous about just how effective he'll be in an offense with a rookie QB.
And I will say that I need to say this because I actually texted Dave, and I think that might have been the reason he said the word 50. I have done a little bit of speculating, and some people have done some speculating that him being reunited with Deuce Staley is going to mean that he's re-involved in the passing game. He did average or pace for 70 targets per 17 games his 2 seasons with Deuce Staley. And there's actually a clip that's being shared on Twitter this morning by Josh Norris of Underdog, and it's basically Frank Reich and Scott Fitterer talking to Miles Sanders about reuniting with Deuce Staley and catching 50 passes again.
Right. And so I started doing deeper research on Sanders yesterday. His catch rate's pretty good, 76.5% over the last 2 seasons, only 3 drops on 58 targets. He just wasn't asked to catch in Philadelphia. And now it sounds like, especially.
Well, he was his first 2 years when Deuce Staley was there,
but not the last 2 years when Deuce Staley wasn't there. So he can do it. It's just a matter if he gets the opportunity to.
And then the other.
Does it bother you that he has 14 career red zone targets, including 4 in his past 3 seasons? Probably not. You're probably overlooking that because 2 of the last 3 seasons, Deuce Staley wasn't there.
Well, and Jalen Hurts was his quarterback too. Like, it's not like I think you put J.K. Dobbins with a different quarterback, and I would expect him to catch more passes.
Let me continue to make a terrific bust case for Miles Sanders. Frank Reich in Indianapolis. Remember, Jonathan Taylor, but he also had Marlon Mack. The lead running back there averaged anywhere from 15.5 to 19.5 attempts per game.
Yeah.
Just once did a running back have over 250 carries in a season. Reich has traditionally used a 3rd down guy. So I know that we've heard this talk about Sanders being a 3-down guy. Look, I think he can get you between 12 and 13 PPR points. I don't know if that's good enough to be round 4. Probably, but maybe not good enough.
All right, Jamie.
What a great bust he is.
Jamie,
now you're going to hear my bust case for Christian McCaffrey.
Hey, Jamie, what do you got?
I mean, I hate to say I'm still nervous about Derrick Henry because it burns me every season, but I'm still nervous about Derrick Henry. 29 years old, 3 of the last 4 seasons, all the work that he's had, according to Pro Football Focus, worst offensive line in the league. And so, he's great. I don't mind drafting him at the right spot. And based on NFC, that's amazing to get him at the end of round 2, but I still see him going in round 1, and that makes me nervous as hell. So I know the concerns with Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs have pushed him up. It has for me. I've put those guys behind him at this point, but I'm still nervous that this is going to be a rough season for Derrick Henry. At some point, he's going to fall off a cliff, and when that happens, it's going to be bad.
There's a lot to be concerned about there. The age. I mean, he's going to be 30 in January.
He's built different, though. That's the thing. He just built differently.
But he wasn't really. He hasn't been like a super special running back the last 2 years. He's just gotten so much work. I hope he can catch the ball a little bit more because he has over the last 2 years with Tannehill been more involved in the passing game. That's not the case when Tannehill was out last year, but that would help certainly.
I will say though, much more confidently, I am not drafting Breece Hall and Javonte Williams unless they fall to just the right spot. And Javonte's still in a range where I would buy him in round 7.
Mm-hmm.
But the history of guys coming off this injury their first year, it's just so tough for them to be successful. There's so rare examples. Jamal Charles, the first time he did it. Adrian Peterson, his MVP season. Those guys are just, they were tremendously, I think, lucky, different, rare. I hope that's the case for Breece Hall. And I think the right argument for Breece Hall, if you're drafting him, which, paying that price in round 2 is a little tough to do. And again, it happened in this draft I was in over the weekend. That he's going to be a league winner by the end of the season. I think that could be true. I really do. I think that, once he gets back to form, we saw it with J.K. Dobbins, for example, with the way he was running at the end of the season, and he required a second procedure during the year. But think about how bad that was for Dobbins last year. Think about how bad it was for Saquon Barkley when he came back from his ACL. These guys struggle, and the Jets have told us that they're not sold on it to whatever degree, kicking the tires on Dalvin Cook, spending another draft pick on a running back, still having the guys that they have on the roster, they're concerned. And Javonte, I know it's great that he's back and hopefully all things are there. Why did the report come out that if Josh Jacobs is available, the Broncos would consider it? I think that's
his agent wanted it to.
Well, no, I think that's also what the team is looking at. There was, plenty of evidence of them looking at running backs as well. They settled on Samaje Perine. They obviously, feel good about Javonte to a certain extent, but Josh Jacobs makes them a better team if he goes in there right now. And so if that's something that they're consider, I think you got to consider that for Javonte also.
All right. Heath, who will be a bust?
Yeah, and I agree with Breece Hall, but I won't say him. I'll give 2. One is Najee Harris, and it's just, man, can you be that bad and keep seeing that many touches? He is the 4th running back since 1992. The 4th running back since 1992 to have at least 600 touches their first 2 seasons and average both below 4 yards per carry and below 5 yards per target. The other 3 running backs had a combined 2 top 20 seasons for the rest of their career. It was Eric Rett, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Willis McGahee, a combined 2 top 20 seasons for the rest of their career after those 2 seasons. We saw him lose pass catching work to Jaylen Warren last year. I wouldn't be surprised if he's as sluggish as he was last year, if he loses some more carries to Warren. And I know that's not something Mike Tomlin's done in the past, but it might happen now. The other one's Ken Walker. Zach Charbonnet got healthy first. Charbonnet, I think, is probably going to be better in the passing game. Charbonnet, I think, is probably going to be better in short yardage. Walker's a really fun best ball back because of that big playability, and maybe he turns into the Tyler Lockett of running backs, and he just gets you enough spike weeks to where he justifies the round 4 or round 5 cost. But I'm terrified of the fact that he's hurt now, and I think he's going to lose important touches as the season goes on to Charbonnet.
Okay, when would you draft Ken Walker then if he fell?
I'm pretty much just hands off. I think I have him in round 7.
Got Dave and Jamie. When would you draft Ken Walker?
I'd think about him in round 5.
Yeah, it was round 5 for me before the injury. Now it's round 6. So I think again he's got to get healthy. And these are valuable snaps. And now that McIntosh is hurt too, Charbonnet's got a real big opportunity to show that he can do a lot in this offense, especially if that shoulder holds up. So getting more and more excited about him and less excited about Walker in round 5. He's still in round 5 for me now, but I wouldn't be surprised if he falls.